Hello everyone and happy Family Day from the town of Oakville. Thank you so much for joining us for this virtual program. Today, Chef Laura Strath is going to show us how to make some lovely town-submitted cookies. So these are actually cookies that were submitted, or cookie recipes that were submitted from some of your local neighbors. And Chef selected her two favorite to feature today.
Thank you everyone for joining me today. Happy Family Day. I had so much fun looking through all these recipes. Thank you so much for submitting your favorites. So I have chosen two, a classic chocolate chip cookie, and we're also going to be making a Gingersnap cookie as well. So we're gonna start out with our chocolate chip cookie, okay? So I've got some melted butter. I'm gonna put that right into our mixer. And then I've got a mixture of brown sugar and white sugar. I personally like to use a dark brown sugar just because of the molasses content. It's a little bit higher in a dark brown. Okay, so we're gonna put this in our mixer and we're just gonna beat until creamy. Okay, that's coming together nicely. So then we're gonna add an egg and a little bit of vanilla extract, about a teaspoon. This looks good. Just gonna stop the bowl. And I'm just gonna scrape down these sides, just making sure that we get all the bits on the bottom. Okay, then we're gonna add our room temperature egg and the vanilla. Perfect. Okay, nice and creamy. So in our bowl here, we've got our baking soda, our salt, and our sifted flour. We're just gonna put this in here. It's at this point where you don't want to overmix and develop the gluten in your cookies, okay? So again, when you're using flour in a mixer, you just want to start off on slow. We're just going to get it to come together, and then we're going to put in our chocolate chips. So the recipe that was actually submitted had semi-sweet chocolate chips and also dark chocolate chunks. So I've just used a Lindt chocolate bar and we've given it a rough chop. Okay, so we're gonna put in all of these things here. Let me do this. So this was one full of the 300 gram bars. We'll get all that goodness in there. Just mix until it just comes together. And we are done. Now, if you have time, you can actually let this sit in the fridge for about a half an hour to an hour. And what that does, it just gets all of the ingredients to meld together in their flavor. Okay, so we're gonna use a parchment lined tray. And then I've got some scoops that are really handy. They're just little ice cream scoops. And then what this does is that you can actually put them all on your tray and you know that they are going to be the exact same size so that they will cook evenly. So making sure to have them spread apart on your tray. Here we go. Oops. A trick to getting more cookies on your tray actually is to have them spaced out in a way where you can fit a few in the centers of the rows. Does that make sense? Okay. Another trick too, if you're only needing a few cookies just for yourself, you can actually put them on a tray like so and then put them in the freezer. And then once they're frozen, you can put them in a Ziploc bag with the date and some baking instructions, and then you can pull them out frozen and bake them. So when you have company come, when we have company coming, then you can have those nice and ready. Okay, so these go into an oven at 350 degrees for about 10 to 12 minutes until golden. All right. Okay, these are right out of the oven. They smell amazing. So what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna let them cool on the tray for about 5 minutes or so. And then we're gonna just lift them off with a spatula and put them on a cooling rack until they are completely cooled down. Now try to make sure that they're cooled down before you take a bite or the chocolate's gonna burn your tongue. Okay, enjoy. So our next recipe that was submitted is Grandma's Ginger Snap. So one of my all-time favorites. So let's get started. We're gonna be putting in some butter, or in the recipe, it called for shortening, but I just have butter here on hand, so we're just gonna use that. And we're just gonna cream the butter until light and fluffy. So a good rule of thumb when you are making cookies is to make sure that everything is at room temperature. So if you're in a rush and you don't have room temperature eggs, what you can do is just put your egg in a cup of warm water for about 5 minutes, and that brings it to room temperature. If you need to have room temperature butter and your butter is still cold, there's a couple different methods. You can actually use your cheese grater and grate it. Or you can actually, if you have a microwave, you can put about 2 cups of hot water into a glass bowl or a glass measuring cup. Microwave it for 2 minutes. Take the measuring cup out. Have your butter in a bowl, and then just put it in the microwave and close the door. So the residual heat from the microwave heating up the water will actually soften your butter, about 10 minutes or so. Okay, so this looks pretty good. So we're gonna add in our sugar. So when you have everything at room temperature, it just incorporates a lot more better into the mix. Just gonna bring some air into this mixture here. Okay, I'm just gonna use my spatula and scrape down my bowl. And if you don't have a mixer, that's okay. You can do this by hand, or if you have hand beaters. Okay, so let's get our egg in there. So 1 egg, and then we're gonna be adding in some molasses. So trick with your molasses. If you spray the container with a little bit of nonstick spray and then measure out your molasses, it comes out a lot faster than you would if you didn't. And you can get all of the bits out. Okay. Molasses is a nice source of iron. Okay, and I'm making this. All right, let's get this mixed up. Smells like Christmas. All right. Just gonna give this a final mix before we add in our sifted dry ingredients. Okay. So we've got our flour, our salt, our spices, and we're just going to mix on low until combined, okay? Not too much. There we go. Okay. So with this recipe, what we're going to do, just going to scrape down the bowl here. I don't want to overmix with my flour in there. I don't want the gluten to develop. Okay, so what we're going to do is we've got a bowl here with some cinnamon sugar. So you can just make your own. It's equal parts cinnamon to equal parts white granulated sugar. And then I'm just going to use my trusty scoop. And then I'm going to do a roll. And I'm just going to roll it into the cinnamon sugar until it's coated. And then we're going to put it onto our baking tray. So these will go into a preheated oven at 350 degrees. And then you'll want to do a little bit of an eye check at around 10 minutes. They should be a little bit puffy on the surface and have a little bit of cracking, and that is exactly what you were looking for. Just do a few here at a time. This is the part my kids love, is the scooping. Okay. These actually are great to be frozen. So same idea as the chocolate chip cookies. You can put them like this into the freezer and then pull them out to bake. Okay, these smell so good. Okay, then they just go into the oven at 350. So when you are baking cookies, I like to bake mine in the middle rack of the oven. I tend to just do one tray at a time just so that I get even temperature from the top and the bottom. And we'll put our timer on for 10 minutes and then we'll check. Okay, here we go, out of the oven. Nice cracking on the top. This is exactly what we're looking for. Just make sure, again, with these ones, you let them cool down completely on the tray before taking them off. If you do have leftovers, you can store them in an airtight container for up to a week, or you can just pop them into the freezer.